following video contains content not suitable for all ages. You've been warned. Hey everyone, welcome to News Barn, the crazy program where we talk about the news and give our opinions. I'm Major Random.
I'm Colonel Crazy.
And here's today's subjects. So, we recently found out that there's been new stuff brought up about the 2013 Boston Marathon bombing and trial.
Quite a horrible incident that occurred. It's good they're moving through prosecuting the guy who, one of them, his two brothers, that were responsible for the bombing.
Yes, they recently started, in the case they brought up autopsy photos and evidence for to bring in the case. The interesting part is the brothers being prosecuted actually have a decent defense attorney and are being pretty strong on this one.
Yeah, it's I remember hearing more. I mean, I remember when the case came out, and they basically shut down all of Boston to find these guys. But I remember watching a TLC or Discovery Channel documentary on what exactly went down. My first feelings were that these two brothers were seriously fucked up.
Well, yeah.
I mean, there was one instance where the police encountered them, and one of the brothers was shot or injured, and the other brother just drove away and ran him over. Very honorable. he ran his brother over, then took off. I mean, this was after they shot this random college campus police officer, and then the police, I guess, found them kind of in a neighborhood and shot the brother or something, and then he was on the floor, and this guy that's on one of the brothers that's on the trial now just runs him over. I was like, that brother really.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Courage there.
Yeah, some people would say that terrorists have no honor, but then someone always pointing out to be really the terrorist. I mean, some people.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, some people who I like to quote. There was a favorite quote of mine. It's out of a book, and yes, it's from a video game base. It was said, what when people call why do governments call things terrorists? It's just to justify that their war is more honorable and has more merit than your war, just because you don't have the means.
It's become very political. I know. I mean, in the past 3 years, it was 3 years ago, I was taking a emergency class through the city. It was for disaster preparedness, and there was a fireman teaching the class. I remember he said, "There's like 200 definitions for terrorism." I said, really, the only definition I have known is, murdering, attacking innocent people in order to bring about political change.
Right.
I didn't see where you needed 200 definitions, but I got suspicious that the government's kind of basically can label anyone now a terrorist because they have 200 definitions to choose from.
Right.
I mean, it was interesting, but.
Well, yeah, I mean, some terrorists, obviously, or people call terrorism, is done, obviously, for political motive. If anybody knows their history, you had the Glorious Revolution in England where they tried to wrong one. It was the Guy Fawkes attempted to overthrow Parliament, which is where he loaded several tons of gunpowder underneath the Bailey to try to blow up Parliament as a means to be, because at the time, England was Protestant, and Guy Fawkes didn't like the fact that the Church of England was telling people what they could worship. And now that makes sense because you're basically, it's kind of your way of expressing your freedom of speech. If anybody doesn't know who Guy Fawkes is, watch. You ever seen that mask from V for Vendetta? That's a Guy Fawkes mask. Now you've been educated.
I always thought, with terrorism that. When you're a government worker, when you're a soldier representing a government, I mean, you are a target. I mean, you're an open target. When your nation engages in conflict and aggression, you will be the target. And often there's been terrorists that have bombed. I mean, military bases and government buildings and whatnot, and it's an interesting thing to think about more. Obviously, with all the politics and what's reported on the news these days, everyone kind of has a one-track mind about this. But I mean, I've always thought, it's if you're attacked and as long as you're combating the government of that country, I mean, ethically speaking, with warfare, I mean, this has been discussed, through philosophy and whatnot. You're in that guideline. I mean, you're in that boundary. I mean, as long as you're not going out, because civilians don't run the country. They can't do anything. They don't pass policy. We vote for leaders, but leaders pass the policy. They're the target. I mean, they're the source of your misery.
Of course. And now I want to go back to the whole Boston thing. It's interesting now because if you think about it, this actually brought up the fact, I think back in the 2000s, we were under impression that everybody who was a terrorist was, an Arab or a Muslim. This brings back the topic that many terrorists
forgot about the IRA.
Yeah, forget about like the IRA or
Ku Klux Klan.
No. What's his name? Gonna blow up Unabomber. The Unabomber was a terrorist. He was a white guy from the United States. This proves, and many people remember, terrorism isn't only about isn't only religious. You also have some pretty fucked up people.
Yes.
I mean, look at the Unabomber. He wanted to blow up the whole. Is it in Kansas or is it Ohio? He wanted to take out one of the federal buildings.
Probably. I mean, I'd have to read up on the Unabomber again, but yeah, he had many successful bombs go off.
Yeah, he was very anti-government.
He was like living in the woods somewhere.
Yeah, so this
But I mean, in a way, I always talk to people. The United States government has bombed civilians. I mean, governments around the world have bombed civilians to get their way.
Right. I mean, it just as it said.
Technically, okay. I've often had this debate. What about dropping the nuke on Japan?
Yeah.
2 nukes. I mean,
and
they dropped them in a civilian center to bring about change.
Right, but I believe it was Nagasaki was a military base, and their job was to take.
I mean, the whole city.
Right.
Was a
of course,
military
Nagasaki.
base.
What's interesting is that was wrong, but it did.
It's debatable.
But
people
could argue in that case that the total bloodshed was far less than it would have happened if there had been a full invasion mounted in Japan.
But then again, any terrorist can say that.
Right.
I mean, the Mid-East could say, well, we bombed all your people because, what you guys would continue doing to us and the manipulation you guys would be playing with your corporate interests and political interests would be far more dangerous.
But you think countries like that would learn from the example of Japan is when you poke a large power like the United States, you're waking a sleeping giant. It's,
that is something you need to think about in a geopolitical sense.
All right, now let's try something a little bit less
grim
and explosive, and something a little bit more kind of sad, and not in the kind of wham ways like in a face palm. So, Colonel, you said you had a topic.
Yeah. I was reading. If you go online, you type in weird Craigslist ads. A bunch of them will pop up.
Craigslist. It's if you look, you'll find some of the craziest shit ever.
Yeah, you can find someone who wants to put a baby in you, and all kinds of things in you.
Yes, I saw that one.
And then you can also buy, like a lawnmower,
or a game case or couch. I've heard of people who get they furnish their whole house with stuff they got off Craigslist because you have some doctor who's, maybe their private practice failed and they're offloading all their furniture.
That's true. Well, yeah, I was looking through it, and man, there was one Craigslist ad an individual I'm friends with on Facebook put on his page,
Oh.
and it was this ad. This woman who claimed she was in her 50s put up that she was asking someone to come over to her home and fart on all her son's stuff. You know, fart on his clothing and his bed and his magazines and even his pet turtle, and she would have sex with them.
Okay, that's a little fucked up.
Yeah, that is pretty messed up. I mean, and then she said if you didn't wipe your butt earlier and you went to the bathroom, you'd be number one on the list for the farting. It's pretty deranged.
Yeah.
She must. I guess her son didn't buy her a nice gift for Mother's Day.
Yeah, or maybe her birthday. Yeah.
She's maybe just going through menopause.
Yeah, it's true.
She said he was out drinking
right
now, and that she needed someone to volunteer to come over and pass a lot of gas, and then bang the shit out of her. She said she was really thin and attractive. She was in her 50s, and she was attractive, and invited anyone who was willing.
Yeah. Craigslist shows
eat a lot of beans and come on over, fart on a lot of shit.
I don't know.
And then fuck
I don't
me.
know about her, but beans will make me gassy. They don't make me like rip nasty ones. Maybe she wants them out of steak.
Ooh, yeah, that'll be bad.
Steak sauce.
Yeah, and then what is this? I remember this story. A guy at the gym was telling me one time how him and his brother went on Craigslist and said.
That's always a great beginning of the story. We went on Craigslist.
We went on Craigslist. They put up a phony ad and said, they said that they were, you know, a young, attractive 20-year-old, and they put these fake pictures from a girl they knew, and they said, meet me, show up tomorrow at Starbucks and buy a scone and sit in the corner, and I will be observing you from a safe distance to see if I'm into you. And
that's so creepy.
They put that up, and the next day they go and they're in the parking lot of the Craigslist, and they're looking at just staking out the place, and they see about 5 or 6 guys all order a scone, and they already see 2 of them going into the corner, and then the other ones are like, well, I'll go maybe kind of next to the corner, and they just all look awkward, and they just laugh their ass off.
Well,
so
I've heard of.
I was thinking that would be a great prank to play, is to go on Craigslist for someone you really don't like, and to say, hey, go to John's house, he'll fuck the shit out of you, and put up a bunch of pictures of models and stuff, and say, you come to this house and you'll have a crazy sex party, and you just have a train load of people. And I was like, oh my God, that'd be bad.
Oh God, I've heard of some bad Craigslist. You also have some of the great, like idiots to Craigslist who have some of the dumbest pictures ever. Like, oh, I don't know how to use a camera. I'm like, did it go off?
Yeah, it didn't go off.
Now you have some guys who are like real idiots on Craigslist. And if you ever just want to laugh, just read some of the ads on there. And the funny part is no one. I know it sounds very picky, but people don't use punctuation. And if you read the whole sentence, you feel like you were like going, "Hi, my name's John. And I want someone pretty. I want someone like 5'6", with double D tits."
Yeah,
you'll only be out of breath, and they'll be all capped. Please learn. I mean, this is some personal advice. I say learn to.
When you're really turned on, you want to get fucked in the ass fast. You're not going to, you're not going to watch for punctuation and grammar.
And remember, another thing is to use the word there, THERE, instead of THEIR, and those two use interchangeably. And people are stupid on Craigslist.
There's a lot of weird people, and there's one guy that has all these dildos were left at his home because he had to evict some tenant he had or something, and now he has all these dildos, and he's started selling them, and he's made like a dildo mobile to sell them.
All I can think of partially is sorority boys. where they get the dildos and they have to fight with the dildos.
Sorority boys and dildos. That's
There's a whole scene where two guys are like fighting with like, these huge ass dildos, like frick. And then I thought that kind of reminds me of the game Saints Row, where you actually get a dildo bat as a
That's
weapon.
awesome. It's interesting is you can go online. There's this funny thing of these two guys are fighting like in a volleyball kind of area, and they're like one guy just whacks him with a 20-inch dildo.
Oh yes, I've
in
seen
the face. Yeah, that's why that's great.
There's
that should be a whole sport.
There's a great video where you have a guy with a cat of nine trying to whack someone, and a guy just whacks him in the face with a big ass dildo.
It's insane.
It's done very much like a Roman gladiatorial thing.
Hey, that's what we should bring back.
Roman gladiators.
Roman gladiatorial sports with dildos.
It would probably be on the Playboy channel.
Yeah, it probably. I don't know what it would be on, but I certainly would pay to see it.
Spike.
Being hit with a dildo can do some damage. But speaking of that, we were talking earlier about men and sex toys.
Yes.
Often in our society,
this is what
it's really we allow and understand women buy sex toys.
Yes, of course. A lot of women will buy things like dildos or a little egg they stick in and it vibrates.
Or Trojan has that thing you like finger yourself out with and it vibrates.
Or you have the magic wand.
You always see that when you're buying condoms at the
Of
drugstore, and you're like, wouldn't it be great if they had like a vagina mold that for guys just sitting on the rack? They have it sit right next to where all the condoms are. It's like it'd be great, a little like thing for guys to like put their stuff in.
Right. I mean, the sad part is that guys kind of look down upon because like, what are you doing to get a girl? Well, sometimes maybe I don't.
Sometimes they want to make their masturbation more interesting.
I mean, I can only do this so many times before it gets, starts getting wrong. Maybe I'd want something a little more inventive. I mean, you just say, does it feel good?
I know a friend. He was really into sex toys, and he was very adamant about them. He was kind of weird though. He lived with his mom.
That's not good when you say you're not making.
He lived with his mom, and I remember he was telling he didn't have a job, and he was living with his mom, and he was using one of these fleshlights. And when his mom would go to work, he would clean the fleshlight in her dishwasher.
Yes, I've heard those. Like
crazy.
You can watch. There are like videos like that on HBO with like dildos.
Yeah, it's like, you gotta clean it.
It's not. It's kind of
It's fun, right?
I mean, it. Again, you need
watching porn, masturbating gets old fast.
Right, and people. The thing is, even if you have a girlfriend, I mean, guys use toys with their girlfriend. What's wrong with using a personal masturbator when say she's not in the mood or she's sick? It's just something that it's kind of taboo, and it shouldn't be. It's something that if you really want equality in the sex, guys should have their freaking flashlights, just how women have their freaking dildos.
Yeah, exactly, man. And everyone would be a lot happier, maybe a little bit happier.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe not.
And interesting enough, this is not being sick. They actually found out that, at least for guys, regular ejaculation is actually very healthy. It actually prevents things like prostate cancer because the muscles are exercised constantly.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't do it so much, but maybe once a day, or maybe even once every other day.
Also, it helps you last longer when the real thing comes up. If your balls are full, you're going to be going a little. Your lady's not going to be satisfied for very long. When your balls are empty, when they're not completely just ready to go.
Yeah.
It's more time for her pleasure. So, ladies, something to think about.
Yeah, and maybe you have.
I've actually never met a woman that, from my personal life, I've never met a woman that was really disgusted by. The women I have met were disgusted by masturbation were usually, extremist Christians, of course.
Or you have.
She was like, I can't believe I found, my friend found her son's, sheets and stuff, and they were all messy with semen. I was like, he's 15.
Yeah.
He's healthy.
Actually, and just to point out, masturbation on both ends is a great. I actually took a sociology class that dealt with human sexuality, and they say that this is actually a very good way for people to find out about themselves. You learn about yourself. Also, while doing it, it's a great way to inspect your body in case you have. Some people get. Maybe you're working out and you get for guys you get a scrotal relocation, and that's not a good thing. You want to go to your doctor about it. Or women get some sort of damage done. It's very very useful for saying, hey, something's wrong, and I need to go see the doctor. I know it feels weird because I mean, who doesn't feel weird when you have a doctor, especially if the doctor that you touch your junk. But at least if you know, say,
yeah, I think the only doctors that ever touched my junk were doctors.
Yeah. I mean, but
I had a female dermatologist that was
yeah,
kind of putting her hand around places, but gotta check for moles.
Mold. That's not a mold.
Yeah, it's like that's not a mole.
So, do we have anything else we want to talk about tonight?
Yeah, there was over the weekend I was at the mall and two men walk up to me and tell me that they will give me $20 if I can tell them the 10 Commandments.
I'm pretty sure I get at least 8.
I got it. I got 8, and they were really amazed. I already knew they were Christians coming up and setting up a whole preaching thing. I already knew that. I was like, haha, $20. They're getting good.
That's very weird.
They're off for money. They've got my attention.
Hey, all right. I think this is kind of going on is because recently there is an article published that in terms of religiosity, the Americans are getting a lot less religious. Statistics show that particularly Protestants are no longer the majority in terms of faith. And in fact, they're in many places a plurality or now even a large minority among non-associated with people who they refer to them as nons in the article, and I will find this article and it'll be posted right down below. But it basically states that many people are not going to church. They're either on one end they're what we call deists, or people who don't believe in a particular kind of God.
Founding thought.
Yes, the founding thought.
The architects of the country were deists.
Yeah, the concept is you believe in some sort of creator of the world or the universe. Then you have.
But you don't know who he is. You don't adhere to any.
And in fact, yeah.
Bibles or Qurans.
Right. In fact, some people actually believe that humans are not smart enough to conceive of a God. Then you have the more middle. You have the Gnostics who are maybe saying, I don't believe in any. I'm not sure. Actually, before that, you have what's called pantheists. They're kind of like they're like much more like the Jedi's. If you think about it, they believe in kind of the Force universe. Yes, you have your agnostics. Then you have your atheists who.
There's not enough reason to believe there's a God.
Yeah, they're willing to accept if you brought forth evidence of God or a God or gods, they might go, okay,
Well, what's interesting to see is a lot of atheism is growing, and like you just said, that plurality is shrinking.
Well, the Protestants, yes.
That there's more access. There's more access to. There's more education.
Right, and
there's more access to. I mean, you can Google most anything.
Right, and they actually said that's one. I don't remember the next name, but you can read in the article below. There's researcher of religion said that the key to people's becoming a lot less religious is the access to things like the internet, because in fact the internet is what you could call now the modern library of Alexandria.
Because now everything Christians say, you just Google it and you're like, oh, that's BS.
Right, or you also have things like the History Channel, where you have things, they explain things in a more scientific way, or you go, okay, this doesn't.
But you have the Westboro Baptist Church that claims God created the internet for them only.
That's a little egotistical.
I can tell you the internet's not for preaching about God.
And although we like him, Al Gore did not also preach the internet.
There you go, yeah.
Although he did help out, so that's another thing we learned. Yeah, they say internet people with access to the internet tend to be smarter. They tend to because they have more knowledge. In fact, they say people who are not religious and are atheists even tend to be a lot smarter because they believe in a lot more of reason and logic as opposed to fate and being emotional.
It's definitely interesting to see where this will take us. I mean, 70 years, how many people will believe in a lot of this stuff?
I'm recording. Please go away. You're creeping people out.
We're doing a porno. There's illegal things happening here.
All right, let's go back. So, there's been a huge shift in people's belief in terms of religion, and it makes sense that the more educated you are, and the fact you realize there's a lot of stuff that's similar, and there's so much, but yet so different. You're going to go, I'm not quite sure about this.
How could you be? I mean, or a lot of it just doesn't make any sense. There's not. It's a lot of. I mean, you look at all religion. You look at the history of it. You see all these different continents and in these cultures and countries. You see they all have these stories of gods and similar bad guy, good guy, and this and that, and sacrifice. I mean, it's something a lot of people use to survive back then. I mean, the average American, the average person today in any country I don't think fully comprehends how horrible it was 2,000 years ago. I don't think they fully understand.
Right. And
I think when they look at the past, I mean, I was talking to this Christian, I was like, you do know this, supposedly the Bible, the Word of God, do you know how many centuries it traveled through, how many evil dictators how it was not different from any of the other stories. A lot of Christians always know, this was the best thing that came out.
Actually,
everything before it and during that time was the best thing. I mean, you had Christianity in 1 AD, and then you had Islam that came about in the 600s,
right.
630 or so AD.
Right. Well, Christianity started forming right after the Jesus' death, and that's about 33 CE. So you now have in fact, and the sad part is you have things like the Crusades. You're fighting over things that are so similar, yet.
Or were they really fighting over meaning, or were they fighting over
power or land,
or all of the above? A lot of the followers fight for meaning, but the hierarchy is for money.
Right, of course.
Same thing in any level.
Right. So, So religion's just. I mean, you can believe what you want if you want to. I'm not going to tell you.
No, I mean, obviously it is your right in this nation. It's your right, whoever you are. I mean, you can believe in something as long as you're not indoctrinating everyone else.
I think the best quote I heard, one of my personal heard from Bill Nye, and he said, yeah, exactly. He came out and said that the problem with a lot of religious people is they try to indoctrinate their kids and they try to prevent them from learning reasons, and that because if you think about it, reason is kind of the death of religion, because if you begin thinking in a reasonable way, you go, this doesn't make any sense. Like I always had a problem as a kid. I go, okay, so God created everything. I'm like, okay, well, so what's before God?
What I see, maybe I've proposed to many Christian people or any religious person I met. Proposed. What about thinking about? Normally, it's been Christians, Muslims too.
Many Protestants.
Muslims and Christians.
Mainly, those are Protestant faiths.
Yeah,
Catholics are kind of.
In general, yeah, they're kind of mild, but there's still a few that they'll talk your ear off.
Don't get sin.
Yeah, and I always say, you know, what about looking at the Bible, the Quran, in a metaphorical way? I mean, you watch a movie. There's been movies of fiction, Star Wars or Terminator. I mean, really fun, or Lord of the Rings, the book. You know, it's an exciting adventure. There's much wisdom to gain, but it's not real. It's not to be taken as real. It's to speak to the psyche, to the heart,
Well, here's the thing.
to wisdom.
Here's the thing I never got is why is eating something so delicious like pork make you sinful?
It doesn't. I mean, if you start analyzing it, it doesn't make. But if you start looking at it as, I'm reading a fictional story that can offer me some insight. I mean, if you look at what the story of Jesus, there's tons of insight there. I don't think much of it's true. I don't think that. I mean, you just can't take it literally.
Well, this is where King Arthur they think that so much based on real life stuff, but obviously there's stuff that's exaggerated. I mean, you probably didn't run around looking for a holy sword and fight. I mean,
he was fighting off the Saxons coming in to
pick
the bones, pick the meat off, whatever they had,
well,
whatever was left of England.
Yeah, from the Roman Empire. I mean, and of course you're going to have things that are exaggerated. Although my favorite joke is
because I noticed that's how a lot of people communicate back then, because that's just where their minds were at to understand the world.
Right. I mean, legends make people go, yes, this is awesome.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it was a way to get through. I mean, think about your average person.
Back then,
2000, they have no internet.
Or how even 500 years ago, and during the colonization of the Americans,
you have no internet. You have no phone. You have no running water.
You're isolated.
You would have to travel days to get food, days to trade.
Or even
you're isolated
in some areas, like
yeah. I mean, often maybe one of the best. A lot of them, when you slept, you had these visions and images, and that was almost like your entertainment, your travels. Yeah. So it's like a lot of it, maybe these stories is a dream interpretation. It's psychological.
Oh yeah, people need people want to make sense of the world, and if you want God, Allah, or Jehovah, Yahweh, Vishnu, Amaterasu.
Go on. I think what is positive that I'll always give credit to a lot of religious people is, I mean, like in terms of what I've seen, like Christians in America do, they give loads of charity. They've taken people who are beating their kids up on crack cocaine, and they say, hey, go to church, sing along, and learn about this. I find that is better. It's a better alternative than what they were doing, robbing banks and seriously destroying society.
Right, and of course, if religion helps you be a better person, that's fine.
As long as you don't indoctrinate me, that's all I ask.
Yeah.
Just stay away from them. Stop getting through government. If you are truly speaking
also
from God, if you believe you're speaking from God, you shouldn't have to go through the government to get everyone interested.
Also, AA, stop trying to preach that there is that in a higher power. Not everybody. There are a lot of people who don't believe in this higher power.
No, and they dump it, and it's like you're going to hell if you're not me. I mean, you're going to just turn everybody off.
Hey, if I'm going to hell, I'm bringing marshmallows. I'm going to sell those.
A friend of mine once said, if hell is like what it was in Little Nicky, he wants to go to hell.
I love that hell.
There you go.
You get to watch Hitler get a pineapple shoved up his ass every day.
All right, maybe he's, I don't know, yeah, maybe he's got pineapple shoved up his butt.
That's kind
maybe he's being eaten by a T-Rex every day or something.
Maybe it's like the Egyptian thing where he was eaten by a giant hippo.
And that's an interesting point, is how Christians hate their devil character, but he's like punishing all these evil, poor people. He's the police.
Hey, you know what?
He's the gritty police officer that lives in the one-bedroom apartment in the dumps, and plays good cop, bad cop.
Hey,
you don't like him.
Here's when I start meaning the devil. If the devil punishes bad guys, does that make him a good guy? maybe in the strange forest. But you know, I mean,
Yeah, it's all metaphorical, in my opinion.
yeah, religion is funny at times.
Yeah, it's gotten. There was some funny post. It was like, what is it? Atheists have Richard Dawkins. No, atheists have Stephen Hawking on their side. Religious people, no, Christians have Kirk Cameron on theirs, and you wonder why we make fun of you.
Hey, our guy may be in a wheelchair.
I'm not saying I agree with. I mean, I don't know much about Kirk. I know he does a lot of the Christian movies.
Oh yeah, he used to be on the family Growing Pains.
Growing Pains.
Back when Leonardo DiCaprio was growing up.
No, he's a big Christian guy, and
of course,
I don't know if he's tried to indoctrinate.
Yeah, there's.
I mean, if he's just worshiping within a reasonable boundary of everybody else.
I've seen I've heard when the these no Christians like, hey, this is what I believe, and don't get mad at me for believing what I want to believe. And for them, I'm like, you know what, I respect you because you're like, hey, this is what I get.
Yeah, I mean, if
just don't try to keep track.
As long as you're not going through the government. I mean, if you believe I'm going to hell, that's the ultimate meaning of this whole world. I really hope it's not. I'm almost certain it's not. But if it is, if you truly believe that, okay, I just don't want you going through government.
I want to go to Valhalla.
Right. I do too.
That's a great place to go.
Yeah. Exactly.
Unlimited booze.
Women, warrior women.
Or
Valkyries.
Or hell, the paradise promised in Islam. I mean, you go there, you're eternally in good energies, and they have the hurry for spirits who take care of your every needs.
I miss it. I wish they had more organization with a lot of the old religions, like you have, the Greek religion and the Norse religion.
Of course.
And you would have, because the goddesses and the gods, they just seemed awesome, and the female goddesses were sexy. And it's just like, wow, this is like a very vibrant.
Have you ever seen the Egyptian goddesses?
Yeah, and the Romans and Greeks, and I mean, it was just, I could just tell a lot of those people, they were vibrant. I mean, they lived in a tough time, but looking at their spiritual outlook, it was just vibrant. It's just with the Islam and the Christianity and, Judaism in many ways, it's the,
one track
Orthodox Judaism. It seems just like cold. I don't feel like blood is moving.
Right, I mean,
it's just like, wrap up.
I mean, then again,
stop having sex, stop fucking, stop drinking. It's like, what it's like, let's just sit in the closet and rot.
Yeah, I mean, look at some of the greatest statues and architecture inspired by pagan gods. The Roman statues, the Egyptian statues were all inspired to honor Ra, Horus, Zeus, Bellona, Bacchus. These were all to honor these gods. And yet, yeah. So I think we've talked enough about religion for tonight.
Yeah, it's a conversation that
for another
can
day.
go on and on and on, and we'll be continuing to go on. It'll be very interesting to see.
All right, so you want to help us out? Remember to like and subscribe.
Please do that.
Share, comment below. If you have any ideas or maybe any news stories you'd like us to talk about, send it to the email address leave it in the comments below.
If we're offending you, thank you.
Yeah, and if we're not offending you, shut up. No, seriously. Remember, this is our opinions, but we enjoy your opinions too.
We do.
Just don't troll. Because we don't want. And remember,
I'm a troll slayer.
Yeah, don't be the trolls. If you troll, you will be banned. But you guys have yourselves a great day. I'm Major Random.
I'm Colonel Crazy, and please stay sexy.
Yes.